All right. Letting Twitch do its thing. Catch up with the action. I am still suffering from these allergies. I left town for a few days, came back, and it's like all that hard work with my immune system was for naught. So I got a fresh dose of, I don't even know what. All right, let's see. All right, user Guffin pointed out the sound issue, which I need. You know what I mean? You need somebody to come along and say, hey, do better. So I tweaked it quite a bit. And there's a geeky kind of joy in obsessing over settings. So hopefully this is better. I did compromise a bit for that little bit of white noise for the volume. There might be a limit to how good it gets before just a new mic is necessary. The one I'm using is kind of this $15 bestseller. So definitely the best bang for the buck, but maybe not quite what I'll want for the long term. Okay. So yesterday went through and applied the state pattern kata, which is a super simple design pattern. It's got about the same steps as all of them do, really, but let's put this down. It's really just our first three steps of burning a repo, creating a simple UI, and then selecting an example to use against our design pattern. And then for the state pattern, our first step is to create a contract for what a state's going to be. And then our next step is to create a wrapper in which that state's going to live. And then our last step is to create a few state implementations as well as a handler, something that can switch that state in and out of our context. This is a behavioral design pattern, and while you can bake in a lot of functionality into that state implementation, I tend to use it as a gate to other more elaborate behaviors. And so at the end of yesterday, we started looking at the game, the MUD-Z game. And in this game, we've already applied the factory pattern, the bridge pattern, the strategy pattern, the command pattern. So we've got a good thing going. So we started to see that implementing the state pattern on top of that was actually really easy. We already had a context to use. We already had a base abstraction to piggyback on. So 2/3 of our work was already done for us. All we really were left with was that final step of creating some concrete states and applying a handler. So we did that as saying, okay, well, game object states, that's going to be our abstraction, our contract. And then we'll go ahead and inherit that in the player states. So we're doing the same approach we've always done, where we give this light base to our game via the game object. And then when we get into our other domains, environment, game engine, monster, player, we let those things evolve independently. And what glues the entire game together and makes these parts work and be interchangeable is that they're all derived from some type of game object, whether it's a state, inventory item, or whatever have you. All right. So for our player states, just threw a few out there, didn't give them descriptions: alive, infected, dead, drunk, angry, depressed. So we'll probably change some of these. Like drunk is kind of it's a nice to have. I think it's better this was disabled. That's one we can actually use. But even that's just window dressing. What we really need to do now is decide where and how our state is going to affect our player. And in the kata we said you've got two options. You can either pass in this state, so something of type game object state. And we're going to fix this in a second to go ahead and back that with an interface. But for the time being, oh, okay, hang on. We have one more thing to do. And that is to say that all players should have a state of some kind. We actually have a game object state of some kind. Let's go ahead and elaborate on that. So, we can have some default things that everything can have. We chose alive or dead for the player, but let's go ahead and give this guy an in play. Out of play. And just thinking about it, it's nice to have these base game object states, because if you're dead, you're out of play. That goes without saying. And so there's going to be some correlation between our derived states and our game object states. However, other things can affect the game object state. If it's an item and it's been destroyed, its state is out of play. And we want to be able to query that. We want to be able to at any given time say, hey, how many game objects are actually in play right now? And so we're answering kind of these kind of business questions as far as being able to query our environment and get back some info. Okay. And both monsters and players inherit from our base actor. So this is the question we're going to ask ourselves every time we extend the monster and players with functionality, is how closely do we want monsters to behave in relation to players? It does add a level of realism of everything that can happen to you can also happen to a monster. That's really nice as far as game AI goes. So yeah, let's go and start there. So quick refactor ahead of Refactor Saturday. So instead of player states, we've got our actor gender types. So the root of our domain, add a new item. We'll say base actor states. Where's actor states, I think? Actor states. If I go to player states, I'm going to chew off all of this. And get rid of this guy completely. So long, friend. You'll be missed. Alright, make that actor states. Do a control here to say cool. Alright, so now any actor monster otherwise can be one of these things. In our base actor, we've got all this stuff. We're going to say public actor states. If you heard my dog barking, he's gone into protection mode. Okay. Alright, so we got a little error here. Let's go ahead and read this. Property type actor states is less acceptable than property base actor states. It's needlessly confusing. But all it means is this. We did not put a public access modifier in front of our class. Alright, this red squiggly goes away. So now we have an actor state. Let's come back over to our player. And we want to take in a actor states. So, this is our first approach to being able to set the state. We say something else, presumably our hive mind, our game engine, is going to roll some dice, do some figuring, and say, you know what, you just drank some alcohol, and I rolled the die, and you were drunk. I'm going to set your state as drunk, and you enjoy those consequences. That's one way. The limitations of this for setting state, which is the way you'll see it online, of passive